In the vast expanse of the galaxy, where hundreds of intelligent species vied for influence, power, and survival, diplomacy was a delicate dance of words, customs, and often armed security. The Galactic Council, an assembly of representatives from the most advanced civilizations, convened regularly to resolve conflicts, broker treaties, and maintain a fragile peace. Each delegation arrived heavily guarded by soldiers clad in the latest armor and armed with weapons designed to incapacitate or annihilate in a fraction of a second. Then, the humans came. When the first human diplomatic mission arrived, the Council expected the usual display of force: armored warriors, high-tech weapons, and an intimidating presence to assert their stature. Instead, the human guards entered the grand chamber empty-handed, their uniforms simple, their posture calm but alert. They carried no weapons, no concealed devices, nothing that suggested they were prepared for violence. The Council's veteran delegates exchanged puzzled glances. The lead human ambassador, a tall figure named Alan, addressed the assembly with a quiet confidence. "We come in peace, bearing no arms. Our security is not in weapons but in trust and understanding," he said. This statement drew polite nods and murmurs, but underneath the older species doubted. Was this naive, reckless, or worse, deceptive? Behind the calm exterior of the human delegation was a deeply ingrained philosophy, born of millennia of hardship on a small blue planet. Humanity had survived countless wars, plagues, and disasters by relying not just on firepower but on unity and ingenuity. To them, bringing weapons to a diplomatic negotiation was a symbol of distrust and a barrier to genuine dialogue, but there was more to their security than met the eye. The human diplomatic guards were trained in a unique form of combat, one that required no weapons but was formidable beyond measure. It was an art of movement, perception, and psychology, honed through years of necessity. They called it close-quarter combat, but it was more than that. It was an expression of control and precision, the ability to disarm and neutralize threats silently and swiftly without lethal force. This was something unfamiliar to the Galactic Council's delegates, many of whom relied heavily on their advanced weaponry. Humans showed that raw firepower was not the only answer. The first test came sooner than anyone expected. During the initial round of talks, a sudden disturbance erupted. A rogue faction, opposed to the idea of human involvement in the Council, attempted to storm the chamber and assassinate key delegates. They were armed with plasma rifles and energy blades, advanced weaponry designed to create havoc instantly. The human diplomatic guards did not reach for weapons because they had none. Instead, they moved with astonishing speed and coordination. One guard intercepted a charging attacker, using a precise strike to the pressure points that rendered the opponent unconscious before the weapon could be fired. Another disarmed an enemy mid-swing, twisting the wrist and disabling the blade with a motion that seemed almost effortless. Within moments, all assailants were incapacitated without a single shot fired. The Council watched in stunned silence. After the incident, the lead counselor, a reptilian figure named Kral, approached the human delegation. "You have shown us something remarkable," Kral said. "Your guards have no weapons, yet they subdued armed attackers with ease. What is the source of this capability?" Alan smiled. "Our training focuses on anticipating threats and stopping them before they escalate. We believe the greatest weapon is control over oneself, over one's environment, and over conflict itself." Kral nodded thoughtfully. "In all our centuries, no species has demonstrated this combination of restraint and effectiveness. Your methods challenge our assumptions." The story of human diplomatic guards quickly spread throughout the galaxy. Delegations from other species began requesting to observe human training methods. Some were skeptical, while others were eager to learn. A younger diplomat from a crystalline species named Talo remarked during a visit, "It is as if they fight without fighting, yet their actions speak louder than any weapon." This philosophy influenced many. Some species began adopting non-lethal combat techniques, realizing that diplomacy might be more fruitful when fear and intimidation were removed from the equation. But the real shock came during the final day of negotiations, when a far greater threat emerged. A coalition of militant factions, tired of the Council's efforts to maintain peace, launched a surprise attack on the headquarters. Their forces were vast and heavily armed, confident they could overwhelm the defenders quickly. The human diplomatic guards, along with the Council's security forces, rushed to defend the chambers. Yet the humans did not pull out weapons. Instead, they led with their unique tactics, coordinated maneuvers that used the environment, psychological warfare, and non-lethal disabling moves to disrupt and dismantle the attackers' formations. One guard, named Ethan, leaped through the chaos to disarm a leader with a swift combination of strikes, then used hand signals and voice commands to organize trapped delegates into safe zones. When the dust settled, the attackers were either captured or incapacitated. The Council's headquarters remained intact. Most remarkably, there were no fatalities among the defenders. After the battle, the Galactic Council held a special session. "Humans," Krall said, addressing the assembly and the delegation, "your approach to security and combat has reshaped our understanding. You arrive unarmed not out of foolishness, but out of wisdom and discipline. You defend without unnecessary violence. You embody a principle we have long neglected: strength through restraint." Alan responded humbly, "Our planet taught us that lasting peace requires more than weapons. It requires trust, respect, and the courage to face danger without surrendering to fear." The human delegation's influence did not end with their arrival. Over the following decades, their philosophy transformed Council protocols. Weapons were no longer the default symbol of diplomatic security. Many species re-examined their own customs and embraced new methods of conflict resolution inspired by the humans. And so, what began as a simple decision to arrive unarmed became a turning point for the galaxy, showing that true strength lay not in the weapons carried but in the values upheld. The Galactic Council would remember that moment forever. The day when humans, unarmed and unyielding, taught the galaxy that peace is not merely the absence of war, but the presence of understanding.